right? Uh, Federal High Court, is it? Or State High Court, rather, in Port Harcourt, granted an ex parte order, which does this copy on the screen, right? So they put on all the members in the, and here is another thing I actually want to say before I even go into that. Wait. How many of you have ever wondered, like, this FUBARA of a person, right? That let's assume that, or let's agree that with a wiki, they have plotted and put all these guys together. Out of 32 or 30, 32 House of Assembly members, right, is unable to actually win over at least half of them to his own side. I mean, to show that he's actually on ground. He is not, in this sense. You know, it could have probably been on ground if he succeeded without the Supreme Court intervention at the time. Because if he had succeeded, by the way, there won't be these guys as House of Assembly members anymore. They will be gone because he actually said they were gone. That wasn't solid, right? So the local government, he nearly took that over as well, but today it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the status of assembly. So with what Tifnubu has kind of like built for them or arranged there in that river state politically, FUBARA is not that going to be that relevant. Anyone could play his role. Do you get what I mean now? The only way FUBARA could actually be real relevant in any of this is that if the river state people actually turn out in their hundreds of thousands, like they just like picket everywhere, they will say, oh yeah, he's their governor. But you know, that is not happening in River State, or maybe not yet. Anyway, so we don't know how the people are actually taking the impeachment, or they are just looking at it like it's part of this their face of nonsense. So it's probably never going to happen. But when this guy succeeds, or if this guy says succeed, right, in the next 2 weeks, FUBARA may cease to be governor of River State. And as for the chief judge, this is the chief judge of River State, the man that is going to set up the panel, 7-man panel, to investigate FUBARA. So the Exparte order granted them today, which was to stop all of these guys, right, from going ahead to remove FUBARA. And they got it, you know. It's like it's hereby ordered as follows. And you need to understand what an Exparte means. Exparte order is not a court judgment, so you get that now. It will expire. How many days is Exparte order again? 7 days. Please remind me, those of you who are lawyers in the temple, how many days is the lifespan of an Exparte order in a court? That's what I was just saying. Don't do anything. Adeza is a lawyer. I think it's 21 days or 7 days or 30 days. So the point there is that it doesn't really hold anything. What it does is to buy time. And most of the time, people barely kind of like obey it, especially when it is politically sort of like factored or so. They won't obey it. And now the chief judge of River State, we are about to find out if he is on the side of a FUBARA or not. Because this is the person legally that can legalize all of that action. If he put together that 7-man panel, now, this is something you need to also know, the process. If the chief judge put together the 7-man panel to investigate all the allegations against the FUBARA, he is likely going to pick the people that are loyal to the cause. Likely. Please remember that, all right? Likely going to pick, because this whole thing is not happening like, you know, legally or so to say. Somebody is pulling the string. Everything is already factored. Everything is sorted. So if this chief judge is not on his side, then that is the man that is going to determine. But if you see the breaking news tomorrow that the chief judge of River State has appointed the 7-man panel, then that means FUBARA is gone. And I don't think he will actually be able to even get back. If they impeach him as River State governor, he is not coming back. Not like all those ones we've had that they went back to court and the court returned them, like Peter Obi and who else? Ladoja. and who else was also like impeached and the court returned him at the time. Werewike is a member of, is a life bencher. That means he's a member of the judiciary for life until he dies. And that is one role or one useful role that is playing for Tifnumbu as well, more than just all the other noise that we see around where people, scream and sing around him. So the Exparte order, which is like 3 of them. The first one is that an interim injunction is hereby made restraining the 32nd defendant. The 32nd defendant is the Chief Judge of Rivers State. So they are restraining him from receiving, forwarding, considering, and or howsoever acting on any request, resolution, articles of impeachment or other documents or communication from the 1st to the 27th. The 1st and 27th respondents are, the 4th and the 7th defendants in this case are the Speaker and all the House of Assembly members planning to impeach the governor, right? So then again, other documents from the 1st to 27th and 31st. So, defendant, for the purpose of constituting a panel to investigate the purported allegation of misconduct against the claimant, applicant, for 7 days. Exparte order is 7 days. Oh, see, don't do anything for 7 days. Oh, that doesn't mean that something is not going to happen. The second one is that leave is also granted to the claimant, which is FUBARA, and his deputy, the applicant, to serve this interim order, the originating processes, and all other subsequent process in this suit meant for the 1st to 31st defendants, to wit, by pasting the said processes at the gate of the Rivers State House of Assembly quarters, opposite former NDDC quarters, Aba Road, Port Harcourt, in Rivers State. And the third one, is that this case stands adjourned until the 23rd of January 2026 for motion given at Port Harcourt. So this is the interim Exparte order for 7 days until the court can then hear the case. And what is the case? FUBARA is saying that he's done nothing wrong and the court must stop the impeachment proceeding against him. I don't know how old some of us who are younger watching this broadcast are, right? But if you go back and read the lot of impeachments, people impeached or governors impeached in Nigeria, they are not impeached simply because they are corrupt. They were not impeached simply because they like incompetent and the rest of that alone. They were simply impeached because they went against whatever agreement they had with their godfathers at the time. Yes. If you remember Ladoja versus Adedibu, you remember? Yeah. Then you have Peter Obi, as well as the PDP controlled House of Assembly by the Chris Uba and the Ubas. Remember? The same guys who kidnapped Chris Ngige, the governor in Anambra State. So it's always about the disagreement between the political godfathers and their supposed beneficiary of such. So, that of Peter Obi is actually because the guy won't let the State House of Assembly get away with over-bloated budget, renovation of government house, and some other stupid things. So they removed him for not approving the money. Anyway, so it's always about this interest. It's not about anything really legal or legit. Okay, so if FUBARA and his godfather managed to twist themselves, the next 2 weeks may actually really, it may, something about them is that it may even happen before 2 weeks. Depends on how desperate they want this done, right? So the last time Werewike was in Rivers before he returned back to Abuja, his praise singers on the streets. Rivers State. Somebody mentioned Fayose. That's true. Fayose was a thief. And at the same time, if you know the story of how Fayose became governor of Ekiti State, yeah, and the sweep of the southwest region by Obasanjo at the time, and yeah, when Obasanjo later found out that Fayose was actually a crook, like Fayose was actually a real crook, confirmed crook. But we are not talking about Fayose tonight. So it was Obasanjo, when Obasanjo visited him in Ekiti, right? Fayose was commissioning a new poultry project. It was supposed to be the biggest state-owned poultry project of that era. That was what the advert said. So they invited Obasanjo to come and commission it. So when Obasanjo got to each section, first, I think he got to the areas where they had their cows. Felt like this doesn't look like a place. This doesn't look like this is where they raise these cows. Like, he got to the place where they were raising the pigs. Same thing. It was like, why are those pigs look so clean and okay. Then he got to the place where they had the chickens, the poultry, right? When he finally got to the poultry side, the biggest. And he was there for like about 15, 20 minutes. Obasanjo is a farmer himself, right? So he was like, Ayo, I want to hear Benny. A question like, are your own chickens, do your own chickens not excrete anything at all? They know they cheat. They know they cheat. That was the end of the tour. That was the end of the state visit. From there, Obasanjo left for the airport and boom, back to Abuja. That was the beginning of the end of Fayose at the time. So what happened after? Obasanjo discovered that there is actually even more other fraudulent projects. What did Fayose did? Fayose went to Ibadan, right? He went to Ibadan where there were poultries, like big, massive poultry, private-owned poultries. He rented their chicken, rented cages, rented animals, rented all these things, and they transported them to Ekiti. Yeah, that's what Fayose did. And immediately after the whole thing, they returned all of the chicken back to the owners and all that. And they were supposed to be the Ekiti State government poultry projects, billions of naira. So Obasanjo was so mad. He was so mad because Fayose then was like very young. He was very young as a governor, a PDP governor, that they schemed him, they rigged him in Ekiti as well. Even though he kind of like was popular, no doubt, too, when he was giving them free water. Fayose a criminal. Fayose returned back to Nigeria and he started sharing water. He started sharing water to people. Ekiti people had no water. So what did Fayose did? They went all these water tankers, all these trucks, all those Bedford old trucks selling all these water tankers. So Fayose will now give them money to go and get water and distribute it to every community. Do you get that now? They didn't buy any tanker or anything. No. You just give them money and say, how much is your tanker? They say, it's 500 naira, 500 naira. You take 3,000 naira. Go and supply 6 trucks of water to this community. So he kept doing that, so he became very popular. So when Obasanjo was so kind of like enraged about the whole scam, you know what he did? They went to Ekiti State, EFCC. EFCC went to Ekiti State. They rounded up all the State House of Assembly members. They took them to Abuja. I don't know if they tortured them or they threatened them, or I don't know. They told them they are all going to jail. Like Obasanjo, madman. That's why he did this same your democracy. They took all of them to Abuja. They spent 2 nights in Abuja. When they returned them back to Ekiti, it was EFCC bus. They used EFCC buses to bus them to Ekiti, straight to Ekiti government house. EFCC were like this. Speaker, House of Assembly member, all of them, they sat from airport to Ekiti, State House of Assembly. They monitored them. That was when they impeached Fayose. And I'm talking about these were like praise singers, house members who are like licking the feet of Fayose. But when Obasanjo was interested, that's what happened. So Fayose had to run away. He hid in the boot, in the trunk of a Mercedes-Benz car in the government house. A marked car. So the governor of the state, he hid inside the trunk of the car. They drove him like that to Ibadan. That was how he got there. That was how he escaped. They now declared him wanted. Drama don't happen for that country. Today, that Fayose is being called a leader. He's on TV in Nigeria talking about politics, talking about leadership, talking about party this and that. Crazy stuff. Sorry for that little deviation. Okay. So whatever you are witnessing in Rivers State today, don't ever look at it from this logical lens of, oh, this one is legal, this is not. No. You can wake up tomorrow and they will tell you that, you know what, the panel is in place. FUBARA may say it's not going to appear before them. 3-4 days later, they will say the panel has indicted him. Boom. Before you know it, the entire River State is going to be filled with military, police all over the place, trucks, everything. Now we're going to wonder, say, Tinubu go allow me to remove FUBARA. FUBARA's role can be played by anyone. You need to understand that. You see, anyone they put there tomorrow, did you not see them when they gave them a sole administrator? The old complaints and noise only lasted for how many days or how many weeks? After that, did people not find their way to go and look for favor in the hands of the sole administrator? That's what will happen in this instance. But yeah, we keep putting it in the diary. See? And another election is coming. The same process is going to produce the same crop of, characters who are going to occupy all these important positions, making these important decisions. And whenever there are political differences, sort of like clashes, right? The people are those who are going to suffer it, the victims in the end. Those who were in power yesterday, who lorded over us like they were the lord of the manor, right? Which I think they were, because they felt on top of the world. And just like those who are dead today, as they are doing, like, 8 years, we will do our 8 years, nothing will happen. Those who were there yesterday were also told to do the right thing, because if Goodluck Egbere Jolantan was like them, right, there will never be APC. Like the usual permutations and all of that stuff. There won't be APC, because you see that idea of doing his own electoral reforms in 2014, 2015 actually changed the game, only for the APC to come in and destroy all of that. Why was that? Somebody is trying to now tell us why Bukwari couldn't sign electoral reform, which would have ordinarily ushered in a free and fair election in Nigeria. So those who benefited from that are now in power. And those who failed to do the right thing, they are now outside, out of power. They want to go back to power. They want to get into power again. So they are promising, asking the ones who are currently benefiting from the failed system, in a way, the faulty system. Right? So they are like asking them to do electoral reform. Doing electoral reform by these guys is like signing your own political death warrant, so to say. Rotif me Amechi, they will be my Judas Iscariot. He's been very vocal lately, by the way, because he's also running for president. And he's also willing to do one term. Remember, he's the guy who came second to Tifnumbu in their APC primaries in 2023. So he's not a pushover. So here he is, trying to explain to us why Bukwari couldn't do electoral reform and Tifnumbu won't do it. And the cycle continues, like a hopeless situation. Watch this.
So a lot of people have said that I'm no longer talking. The more you talk, the more you reveal your strategy. So that's what you're going to do here now. Everything you said was in my head. If you ask those who meet with me, they will tell you that I have been having meetings and talking with them about the possibility of winning the 2027 election. The problem with election in Nigeria is that there is no incumbent government that can achieve electoral reform. None. Buhari tried it and failed. In fact, National Assembly passed the law and dropped on his table. And the man held his pen to sign. And